Wild
West.
Right.
And so they do have regulations that they're supposed to follow. We're going to talk about that today. But to get the show started, to get into it, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're just going to jump right in because we want to jump right in with Joey as soon as possible. So we're going to get right started with the trigger warning that I gave everybody when we got here. This trigger warning about why I'm mad today. I am tired of being mad about this.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it. There was another school shooting in Nashville. And the representatives are getting on TV talking about there's nothing we can do about it. Criminal's gonna criminal. Criminal's gonna criminal.
Wow.
It kind of disgusts me. I have a little bit of a video that does not discuss the actual event, but it discusses as a broad subject school shootings. But you know, I peruse TikTok. Sometimes I make a video. I've been trying to really sculpt my algorithm so that it's more newsworthy. So I kind of know more about what's going on and I can go back and like look and see if this is actually happening. And a lot of people are, finding out for the first time, which I don't know if any of y'all know this, but like France is in full protest. It's not, flowers and sunrises right now. They got people in the streets. What's up, Luke?
What's up?
And protesting, first of all, because they're trying to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64, and the people are not having it. But there's some other issues, social issues that are happening there as well. And people are out in the streets en masse, like en masse. Nice to see you too. So that I found out, you can learn a lot about what's going on if you skip through all the bullshit. But one of the things I landed on today was about this shooting in Nashville. And it was about the school's past. And so there was a head official there. And he was accused multiple times of SA against students, minors, and was finally and it was like a church. It's like a church, religious organization, school. And he was finally excommunicated from the church. But during the time that he was allegedly abusing these minors, and I don't know, I have to look more into this. This is just one thing that I've seen that I need to look more into. The shooter may have been going to the school at that time, and also had not identified as transgender at the time, so was still living as a female. So, if that's true, that could be problematic. Now, what I saw, it had screenshots of documentation. I saved it. I'm going to go back and look at it and go figure it out. But if that's true, that could be problematic. But also, this isn't like a one-off, right? This is something that happens in America, like a lot.
Right.
And it's exhausting, and your thoughts and prayers are bullshit. Like, they're bullshit. Do something about it. Do something.
And let's not make this a transgender issue.
It's not about that.
It's not, because if it were, then we would have already pinpointed the amount, and it has been pinpointed, the amount of male shooters.
Okay.
Yeah,
it has been. Yeah. Well, first of all, that's still the number of other is far, far, far less and more obscure than status quo, which is white male. Right. There have been a couple of female school shooters in America's history. There have been a couple of shooters that have identified otherwise. And so, yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
Well, I don't even want to talk about that person, because that person is that person was able to obtain a firearm legally or illegally, right? Are criminals going to criminal? Yes, they are. But if you have one state that has very strict gun laws, Chicago, Illinois, sorry. Illinois is the state, Chicago is the city. But anyways, okay. If you have one state that has strict gun laws, and then states around it that don't have strict gun laws, okay, criminals are going to criminal. Right. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not it's not about a mental health issue.
It's not a mental health issue. It's it's literally societal, almost exclusively a white male issue. And this person also identified as male, and from what I understand, was taking the hormones. So maybe I've said this before. I'm wondering about hormones. I'm wondering why this is exclusively in the United States, and almost we know that the majority is white male. That for not just school shootings, mass shootings in America.
Okay. So you have a TikTok to...
So I do. I have a video. It really addresses the school portion of this, and how some people are addressing this and thinking that this is a solution. It's not a solution. So I'm going to let this TikToker take it away and tell you all about how this is not a solution, because they have more experience in this setting than I do.
Let me say this real quick. I don't know why every time something goes left in education that they think the right thing to do is to involve teachers, because it's not. Okay, let's be clear that your solution to school shootings cannot be to give teachers guns. Okay, that's not our job. We are not first responders. We are not the military, and once again, we are not heroes. It is not our job to put our life on the line to save kids. That's not what teaching is. So giving us guns is not the solution. When the plumbing goes out at the doctor's office, the nurse is not a plumber for the day. So I don't know why y'all continue to ask teachers to bend over backwards to make this education system work. Giving us guns is not the solution. It's not. Because who's to say that I want to shoot a gun? I don't like guns. Who's to say that I want to shoot a gun? Who's to say that I want to be in that toe-to-toe standoff with a gunman? This ain't the Wild Wild West. So I'm telling you right now, giving teachers guns is not the solution. Not because they may kill a kid, because it does not make sense. Asking teachers to have guns in case a shooter comes in the building is beyond me. Is beyond me. There is no other job in the world where they would ask people to carry guns to protect the workplace. Let's be clear. Stop asking teachers to do things that you wouldn't ask nobody else.
Boom. That's it. Stop. Don't do that. Don't do that. There are other solutions. We could all sit down and talk about it and disagree and agree and all that stuff. But yeah, that's not it. So I have no idea what's going on over there. So we're just gonna roll right on through. We do have a little history corner. I think I'm covering both Black history and women's history in this post that I found. I am, absolutely, because that's what I do. Hi.
She's like staring me down while she's just like, I'm like, enough. And she's like, you're not getting up to do anything. So like, well, I guess I got to get up and do something. So
okay.
Just stare me dead eye.
They own us.
Not listening.
They own us.
I hear you, but I'm not listening.
Let's see. I have this Facebook post that I was just going to share for our history corner. So this, can you see that? Can you see it? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. This is Ada Louise Sipule Fisher. She was a leading activist, attorney, and educator who opened higher education to African-American students in Oklahoma and laid the foundation for Brown versus Board of Education. After graduating from a segregated Langston University in 1945, Fisher volunteered to be the test case for admission to the University of Oklahoma Law School. She Fisher's protracted case involved the NAACP attorney Thurgood Marshall and Oklahoma attorney Amos T. Hall. When denied admission on the basis of race, Fisher filled out a suit asserting that she must be admitted to OU Law School since there is no comparable facility for African American students. Losing in state courts, Marshall argued Sipule versus Board of Regents of the University of Oklahoma before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court reversed the lower courts in 1948, but the state quickly created a makeshift law school in the state capital. Fisher was admitted to OU when this facility closed in 1949. The contemporaneous Oklahoma case, McLaren versus State Regents for Higher Education, ended the segregated seating and discriminatory treatment Fisher and other African-American students experienced after admission. Fisher later practiced law in Oklahoma City, representing clients in segregation cases, and she returned to Langston University to be its public relations director in 1956 and a full-time faculty member in 1959. In 1991, she received an honorary doctorate from the University of Oklahoma and accepted appointment to be the OU Board of Regents the following year. So that is Ada Louise Sipule Fisher.
Nice.
For our history corner. Boom. Just moving us right along. I was just like, we just changed so quick, and I'm sorry if that was like a little jarring to change subjects like that. Sometimes we got to just move it forward so that we can get into the real nitty gritty. And I don't want to diminish what happened, but also we can't.
It's history, and
Yeah.
it's out there for everyone to educate themselves on as well. And
No, well, I mean, just going from like that one, from one
yeah,
subject to the
same,
other. Yeah.
exactly.
So,
We're here
so
to
yeah.
we're here to touch on things and move it along.
Yeah.
So
But hopefully
yeah.
we come to some resolution. I just to touch back on that for just a second. Nashville is also, banning drag queens and books and things like that. So or Tennessee as a whole. So.
And also, I mean, and I've been seeing it fly around too, and everything is a distraction. People, the way that they're
Yes.
taught, okay, let's, the David is pornography. Like, let's shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. Are y'all really?
Right.
So, that's a whole nother
It's crazy.
show.
It's crazy out there. It's crazy out there.
But ask yourself why these things are being put in front of us. Is it as a diversion?
Blinders. Yeah.
So like you said, there's other news out there that people are not even aware of, because we're not watching
No.
the news.
Well,
because and not being curated a TikTok.
And you know what they're doing? They're
Updates.
trying to ban TikTok. That is that's a slippery slope for the reasons that they're trying to ban TikTok. The whole internet does all of the things that they're accusing this one platform of doing, and has all of the same safety to keep kids, all that stuff. They all have it. So just, and also, banning TikTok. Somebody pointed out about the story about France, which is why I noticed it. Actually, somebody pointed out that if you go to Instagram and you type in Paris, France, it's all like Eiffel Towers and puppy dogs, right? It's all aesthetically pleasing. But if you go to TikTok and type that same thing in, you're going to get information about the protests that are happening in Paris right now and all across France. So that's why I don't love TikTok. You guys know I have a love-hate relationship with TikTok because they don't like what I do in my life. Okay. And that's fine. But on the other hand, and there's a lot of bullshit on TikTok. You got to get through all the bullshit. But on the other hand, there's a lot of relevant information happening and a lot of solidarity happening. And when this information is passed, and people that live in Tennessee may not understand, maybe they live in like this like bubble in Tennessee where it's not a big deal to be gay in that little tiny bubble. They don't realize that the whole of Tennessee is trying to eradicate people for living their truth and living their life. So it's just, yeah, it's a information portal. And what does the government not like? When we talk to each other.
Right, or when we're educated about, or
and
so
they don't like it.
And that's the thing, like, where it's a problem is that, okay, if we're talking about limiting this or removing it, then again we're setting up future for that to happen. And where do we become? Where do all of our freedoms?
I just think that they need to utilize their energies for things that are actually for the public good and not hurting people. Right. So with that said, we're getting into some real conversations today. We have today Joey Espinoza. He is a podcaster and the lead compliance and regulation specialist at Cannabis Permits. He does a podcast called The Dollar Pound Show, which I listened to a little bit, and he's going to sound so much more professional than us, you guys. It's going to be amazing. Joey believes that the conversation around business is crucial for helping likely investors and entrepreneurs know what to do and the process to do it so that they can decide whether or not this is for them. Moreover, a lot of people are interested, not knowing where to source information or gathering the wrong one. So Joey's there to lend a helping hand with what he's learned over the years and what he's specialized in. Everybody welcome Joey Espinoza.
Yay,
hey.
welcome.
Hey, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Listen how smooth you sound. How are you today?
I'm doing good. You know, it's been a busy day, dealing with a lot of rain over here right now, but I made it. I made it in time, and I'm glad to be here speaking with you.
The weather out there is insane.
It is,
What is
yeah.
happening?
We're just
Yeah, what
getting, we're just getting the complete opposite of like what you heard last year, right? Is like, oh, they're in a drought, everything's dry, and now it's just out of nowhere. We're getting tons of rain, way more rain than we're used to. I mean, we're already about to be in April, and we're not seeing sunny days in California. That's kind of weird.
It is weird.
So we'll
well,
see.
we're getting so much snow as well. It's just been, it's, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's so much more than, yes, the past 7 years. But 7 years ago, like when it was dumping like this for us, at least,
Right.
to see those weather patterns,
It's
kind
crazy
of come back
though.
around.
It's the worst. I've never seen anything like that from California. I've never seen snow like that.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
no, it's
It,
definitely, and I think unprecedented for us at least, that have been long enough to deal with it. But like you said, maybe it's a cycle. Maybe in the past something's happened, but
maybe
it's a lot
it's
of water.
all those prayers for water in
Yeah,
the
we pray
drought.
too
And then
much.
they were like, okay, you asked for
Here
it.
it come.
Here it comes.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah. You
ready?
know, it is affecting, cannabis too, though. A lot of farms are being hit
Right.
hard by it. A lot of farms are dealing with flooding. It's affecting even the supply chain in the sense that, like, maybe you had an order for some plants that were supposed to go up north. Now you can't even get up there because the road's closed or something. So it's affecting the industry for sure. I have one client actually who they're in an unfortunate spot where the property is, because every time there's a lot of rain, they get some sort of flooding. And this
Oh,
time it was really bad. They had their whole nursery flooded. So they had literally employees in there with water up to their knees,
oh
basically like
no.
looking for little baby plants that were underwater.
I'm so
Oh
sad.
no,
Yeah.
that's
So
Um,
it's been tough.
uh, yeah. So you guys do outdoor and indoor grows, correct?
By
Is
you
that
guys,
right?
you mean California, right?
In California. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So we do outdoor, indoor, and they call it mixed light for basically greenhouses or hoop
Okay.
houses.
Okay. So yeah, so this weather, I mean, it's going to affect the indoors too, just because of all the flooding and stuff. But yeah, and so
Yeah.
when this happens, you guys, we talk about this all the time, but there's nothing that we can't report it and get like, there's
Right.
nothing. We can't
There's
write
not
it
a whole lot
off.
of there's not a lot of relief that you can
No.
get, right? You don't have you probably I mean, sometimes there are some insurance companies that people can get, but they're so expensive because we're cannabis. You just get
Right.
treated like, maybe 3 or 4 times what a regular business would pay. So
Exactly.
nobody has it is the point, right? Nobody has flood insurance. And then to your point, nobody's going to get some sort of like FEMA or federal relief for it, right? Like sometimes FEMA steps in and helps people, but there's not a ton of things that cannabis can rely on when it comes to this
Right.
situation. So
Right.
it hits them harder, and I think that's what we're going to get into today is obviously the regulations and what it takes to be a licensed business, but just cannabis in general, how we're going through this process where it's unlike any other business because we're facing things that no other business is facing. We're dealing with things that no other business is dealing with. And I have a guy who told me he worked for a company that sold like cancer medication. And he said the restrictions on cannabis are even more stringent than what I'm used to
Mhm.
seeing. And it's just,
They built it for us to fail. They were like, you wanted this, here it is. Good luck. We told you it wouldn't work. That's what
yeah,
they
we're going
want.
to take parts of it and utilize it for our gain and wipe wipe
But
everything
then they
else
also
out.
like John Boehner and other politicians have done this too. He's just one of the more notable ones who was like hardcore against cannabis reform regulations, anything. And then he got out of politics and went and invested in cannabis companies and is making money
yeah, you
in
see that.
what he like lobbied against his whole career.
I mean, you also have former law enforcement that's in the cannabis industry making money. Some of them are, pretty high up in a lot of different companies. You have, obviously, there's these corporate companies that come in and they're now publicly traded. And I know one company for a long time, they had a former police chief that was their compliance officer,
That's
which I always found to be really interesting. Like, not to say that who hasn't good at his job, and I don't necessarily know him personally, but it's just wild.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
wild.
It's wild that they went from arresting us to joining us in the workforce and then making more like getting into those higher up positions. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to. So I kind of like seen California a little bit differently, like from my whole career. The West Coast and then like mountainous areas near the Western region have been a little bit different than what we see happening on the East Coast as they legalize. I feel like just in general, as a lifestyle, the East Coast is a little bit more buttoned up, and they brought that into cannabis a little bit. But then I feel like we're a little bit more, lax about things when we show up. We're not always in a suit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the interesting aspect of it, in my experience in California, has been with all these regulations come a lot of things that cannabis people aren't necessarily used to.
Right.
Even the ones that are like normal, right? That a normal business would go through. There's certain things that these people have never done, and so you've seen kind of a merger of the business people with the cannabis people coming together to try to navigate this legal marketplace. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some 100% cannabis people that have done it all on their own and are pulling it off, but there's a ton of that happening where the two worlds are kind of meeting each other. And in some cases, it's producing really great things. In other cases, it's not working at all. And the worst situation is the ones where it's only corporate people. We call them Chads, right? Like people that don't know anything about cannabis but want to get in the game, and maybe they have money, but they really don't know what they're doing.
And they're being hired, right? So I have a few friends that are in the market for employment right now. Friends that got 27 plus years experience with this plant, like have grown their whole lives, and they're being replaced by soybean farmers and,
other
like
industries,
the other industries, and people who've never even touched a plant at all, even in these upper level positions, instead of the people who have worked their whole lives to become this, to be this. And when I say, I'm not talking about this guy grows in his basement and he grows some dank, whatever, but like, no, I'm talking about has worked in facilities, understands how the machine, like how the controls work, the temperature controls work, understands pesticides like down to a science, and understands other organic options that actually work, and how to implement them and how to make things work. And you know what I'm saying? Like they really know their shit. They know it. They know it. And they're still getting replaced by these right? Do you see that a lot happening when you're doing your consulting and things of that nature? Are you working with some of us
on the
or
business?
some of them?
A little bit of both, to be honest with you. I mean, like I said, there's kind of those three categories, like 100% corporate, cannabis meets corporate, 100% cannabis. And I work with all three different of those. And
right.
On the flip side, the good news is there are some mom and pop people that I know that are still in the business that, they came up through cannabis. They got in this legal world through cannabis. All of their money is coming from themselves, right? They haven't taken on any crazy corporate investors. And so they're still in the game. A lot of them are struggling because there's a lot of factors right now that are really hurting cannabis, floods being one of them, but also just the transition we're going through, at least in California, we've been dealing with the prices collapsing basically around July 2021. People were, a lot of greenhouse growers are where I'm from, Monterey County, California, and they were selling their cannabis for probably like $1,200 to maybe $1,400 a pound before July 2021. And then right then when the market collapsed, they were probably getting $500 to $600 per pound for their product. So you have this very abrupt collapse where you're getting half the money. If you sold 100 pounds, you're getting maybe 120,000. Now you sell 100 pounds, you're getting maybe 50,000.
Right.
I mean, that's a huge difference when that's how you're projecting how you're going to move forward, how you're going to pay this, how you're going to pay that.
Right.
And there's just so many factors that are already affecting the business that something like that is even harder to get through. Right? We're not talking about pure capitalism, right? Where there's not other mechanisms at play. There's all these government regulations that are also affecting it.
Right.
I was going to say, is testing and regulation the main attributes, or is there something else that's been pinpointed to say like this is what?
Didn't they just put a new tax on cultivators recently in California?
Actually, I don't mean to say this like this was that like the end all be all, but they did remove a tax actually.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a year and a half ago, I believe they took off the cultivation tax. So now it's only taxed at the retail level, essentially.
Oh, maybe it was just like they were trying to discuss it or something, and then it was voted against. So that's good.
Yeah. So and that when they made that change, that it helped a little bit, but it's still way too taxed because you have obviously your state taxes, and then when you get down to the local level, whatever city or county you're actually operating out of usually is going to want a piece of the pie as well.
Of
So
course, it
that's where
happens
they
here in
kind of get you.
Colorado too.
Right.
Is there a limit to what they can ask for in their piece of the pie? Like what is the average tax in California? It is expensive, by the way. I did a 2018 road trip through the West Coast, and it was crazy expensive for like
Yeah.
an eighth.
Yeah.
I think I paid like $85.
The taxes have definitely gone down over the years, but this is the same thing. Like when I said the state reduced the tax,
Yeah.
I don't want to say that, give them too much credit, because it's like you've already set such an astronomical bar that for you to go from here to here, like you don't deserve that much of a pat on the back because we're still so high up there, right? So Monterey County, for example, they started at $15 a square foot of canopy is how much they would tax a cultivator. So you're paying $15 a year per square foot for anywhere you have a canopy. That's just such a huge tax.
That's
that
crazy.
when they reduced it, they went from 15 to 5 eventually. They felt really accomplished. Like, okay, we went from 15
But
to
you're
5. That's a
still
big
doing
jump.
it. Like what?
You're still doing it too high. Like, in my opinion,
Right.
cannabis should be like 50 cents, 75 cents, maybe $1 at the most. If you're going with the square footage model and you're not taxing them on their gross receipts. And so to start at 15, go to 5. Now, to answer your question, Monterey County is about $1.65 per square foot, which is a lot better than 15. I still think it's a little too much, but we're getting there.
So is this just like a suggestion from the state, and then the city can, or the county can decide what they want to impose?
So the state has their own, and then yes,
So
the
it's
county.
both together.
Correct.
Okay, I just
Correct.
wanted to make sure I was
Yeah.
hearing you right.
So in the beginning, the cultivation tax was I think it worked out to be like $150 per pound, $154 per pound. So every pound that you basically got tested and that was going to be sold, you would owe them that $150 on those pounds. So they took that away, and now you only pay a 15% retail tax in the
whatever
state
you sell.
on whatever the dispensaries sell, whatever the
Right.
retailers are
Okay.
selling. And then the local level is coming in and taxing every part of the supply chain. They have a tax for the testing labs, the growers, the manufacturers, the dispensaries. So every part of the supply chain, it gets taxed when it gets to the cities and the counties, most cases.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then
Wow. And what do they do with that money?
Most of the time it goes into their they call it their general fund.
Don't even tell me that.
General
That
fund.
makes me
We
so
love
mad.
the general fund.
The
That's
general
usually where it
fund.
goes. Yes.
The general fund to give
because
people raises who don't deserve it.
when they set the tax rate, most of them, it goes to a vote of the people, right? The county works, they put it on a ballot for that year, and they vote yes or no, we want to tax cannabis X amount. Usually they put like a ceiling. In Monterey County, they said tax cannabis up to $25 per square foot is what they voted for. And then if they do it where they want to take that money and allocate it, I think it's like a 2/3 that they have to get yes. So it's like with a 51%, we can pass it. With a 66% yes, we'll be able to allocate where we want those funds to go. Most people feel like it's too hard to get that 66%. So they just go with, the general fund.
Ugh, I hate that. We all know what the general fund pays for, and it's nothing for the people. It's not for the people.
It's not for us.
It's not to
right.
help the communities.
Yeah, it just leaves it in this big money pile that anyone can kind of grab out of and play with.
Cipher out of, like give their pay raises and bonuses out of, like put it to their own agenda without, it's just,
I could tell you in Monterey County, from the time they started taxing us to now, which is around 5 years, going on 6 years, they've made $75 million just in our county from the cannabis growers here.
Wow.
So, and that all to your point and what we're talking about, that all went to the general fund. And so it's frustrating sometimes when you work with them and you feel like you've contributed a lot, you've tried to be legal, you've paid all your bills, and you've paid all this money, and then when it comes time for the market to just fall apart, you don't feel like they're doing a whole lot for you.
Right. Well, because they're not.
No, they got their taxes and their fees and they're good. They're like
I
Right.
want you to ask yourself, people who are listening, why does my state representative, city representative, whoever represents me in political office have a nicer apartment than I do? I just, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they own a house, then why don't you? That's just all I'm saying. They don't care about you. That general fund goes to give them pay raises and force their agenda on things that they don't want to ask the general public about. That's what the general fund is for. Yeah.
So taxes are tough. Taxes are tough in cannabis.
So if I go into a dispensary, how does that translate for me as far as like what am I getting taxed in your county as a whole? Like,
so I believe Monterey County is around 3%, maybe 5% for the dispensaries.
On top of the
On
15%.
top of the 15%, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then also you have to pay sales tax on top of that, which is damn near 10% in California.
Oh, okay. So now we're up. So at first I was going to be like, well,
up there. Yep. No.
you know, it's not as high as some states, but then you said the sales tax is almost 10%. So that just puts you like right over the bar.
Danger zone.
I mean, my goodness, it's crazy to steal from the people like that. How, so everybody thinks that, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people think that California is kind of a free for all. So kind of it's not. You have to, there's some regulations and people are following them. But what's going on in California as far as like how do the programs work? And are your medical programs and facilities remaining intact and in business, or are you being taken over by adult use?
Yeah, I mean, medical shops don't really exist anymore in California, to be honest. I mean, people from that world have probably navigated, and if they're still operating today, they may have originated in that, and they may still offer it, but it's basically all recreational.
Right.
In California, the only benefit you get if you have a medical recommendation are you can hold more cannabis. You can hold 8 ounces of cannabis on you. And you can obviously buy more at the store because of that. So a regular person with no medical rec has to, I think, have an ounce max that they can buy per day from a store. Medical could have up to 8 ounces per day.
Okay. And they just would need to have the medical recommendation.
Yeah, they need the medical recommendation. And then if you also go the next step, which is getting like basically a card from the health department itself of California, you can then get the sales tax waived.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
they would
well,
go
at least there's that.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, that's something.
I guess that's a lot.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
If you can get, I mean,
does
that card cost you though?
It does actually. I think it's like last time I checked, it was like $116. If you're on Medi-Cal, I think it's like $60. So it just depends.
But like, when you say that, that still sounds like a lot to me. Like $60. It's really not a lot.
It just depends how much weed you buy,
what can you buy with $60? But like that $60 could have gone towards like your grocery bill, which would have maybe been like, because groceries are getting more expensive, gases. So now I have to pay to get this card so that I cannot pay taxes. I mean, in the long run, is it probably worth it? Depends on how much you buy.
Right.
But probably with that high tax rate, but still, like, it's just.
So there's other things too. I mean, there's the state has created regulations to allow for certain samples. They have allowed for certain things to offer free medicine to people. It took them a while to get there. When they started, they didn't have that, but they've changed the regulations over time. And so they do have mechanisms for companies to do that if they still want to do that. There's actually a group nearby me. I haven't spoke to them in a while, but they were on my podcast years ago. They're called the Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance, and they're a group of all American veterans who have their own, basically like a co-op is what they started with. And so they would grow the cannabis. They would give out a lot of free cannabis to veterans. And they've managed to be, someone that came from the cannabis world, has kind of done it all on their own, and they're still in the game, still doing things. So
Good.
So point being, there are still things out there that help medical patients. And I think medical patients, even if the prices and the taxes aren't right, I think they have overall benefited in a lot of ways. I think a lot of people have gotten access in counties that they didn't have access to before, but it still remains a huge issue in California where we don't have enough retail outlets at all due to the local control aspect of it. So there's still a lot of work to be done. I mean, as you know, it's been about 5 years, 6 years for California, and there's still so many kinks to work out and ways we can make it better.
I mean, us too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Colorado's
Is
not,
there anything
honestly,
new coming? Yeah.
Colorado's not doing much different, I would say. A majority of our medical spots have closed down to go completely adult use. And the taxes are much higher on that side. I don't think I've been offered lower taxes or no taxes when I do a retail purchase with my, with them knowing that I'm a medical patient. So that's something. I mean, it's something that's beneficial. I think that's what we worry about when we see that medical is going away, is that we want, it's in our Constitution in Colorado that we can have access to this as medicine. And what they're saying is you have access to it. But we're like, what? You're taxing the shit out of us. Like, you're making our medicine so expensive.
And also there's not enough manufacturers. The manufacturers are slowly moving also over to adult use because of dosing and fees and this and that. And so when do we start talking merger of systems? It's just I work on a clinical side, and that's what the dispensaries are saying. Is like, medical patients come in and they want the products that they used to get when we were so medical, and now they're not available, and it's dwindling more and more. And so what do we do? How do we?
I would say that's not even necessarily all recreational cannabis's fault. It's the regulations. It's the over-regulation. It's the government getting in and messing up whatever ecosystem was existing and helping people. And so to my last point, like there is people that have access, but there's also the opposite. There's also people that had access and maybe lost it or have less options in their area because maybe their city or county chose not to regulate it. Yeah. And so they got shut down when they were operating previously under Prop 215, which was a pure medical situation. So
when they choose not to regulate the adult use, then they just said you have to get out too, the medical.
Yeah, and most places, that happened. I don't think I know of any place that would just allow medical. Most of them see the benefit of cannabis tax dollars, right? So they want recreational, so they can conceivably get more money out of it. Yeah,
of course. Interesting. But sad too, because we want our medical program to stay intact. So I'm glad that there's some services available, and I think there are here in Colorado too, where they have like usually veteran run services, where they have like a free cannabis program for somebody who needs it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's getting better slowly. But who knows how long it's going to take. I think with cannabis, it's interesting because most other industries, going back to like the difference between a regular business and a cannabis business, most other industries have had decades, hundreds of years, sometimes thousands of years to figure things out. And cannabis is kind of just getting back to the groove of it. As far as being mainstream and being legal, of course, the black market has existed forever, but we're getting back to allowing this legalized cannabis situation. And I feel like we start with this ball that we're slowly shaping away at, and we're trying to get closer to the center, which is the truth and the true way it should be handled.
Yeah.
And so unlike other industries, cannabis is just instantly regulated at the maximum level. And over time they realize, oh, it's not as crazy. So let's take off these regs. Let's lower these taxes. Right. But how long will that take? Is it 5 years? Obviously not. Is it 10 years? No, I don't know. 20, 30, I guess we'll see.
I mean, I don't know that we'll see like full. I mean, we might be like on the walkers,
like, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, I guess, do you think in our lifetime we'll get to the point where we're on our walkers and like the great grandkids are saying, oh, I went and bought a joint from 7-Eleven?
I don't know. I don't know if we'll see that. Maybe if we find a way to live another 75, 100. You know what
Okay,
I'm
so it's
saying?
that
Like,
far away.
I don't think it's that close, but I do think that more people are looking at it and like, this is silly, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is super silly. And kind of baffled, like, young people are kind of baffled that we had to go through such extremes to
Right.
get our hands on it. But also, just so everybody knows, there's still people that have to go through those extremes because we have not nationally
Right.
legalized it yet.
Yeah. Those worlds still exist, even though they might
Yes.
not exist in your neighborhood anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah. Because we have this crazy freedom. And then you can go to, just one state over and they do not. They do
Right.
not, you know.
Hence
I
the
have
black
to
market,
we
right?
have
That's where
to
the
we
black market.
drive to we drive out to St. Louis from time to time, and we drive through Kansas because that's the fastest. You know, we could drive through Kansas, or we could drive through Texas, Oklahoma, and then
Right.
so it's whatever, figured out, right?
Yeah.
Kansas is 6 hours in a non-legal state, just speed
Holding your
limit
breath.
driving.
Yeah.
Make sure all your headlights work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we're who we are. We look how we look. It would not go well. It wouldn't
Yeah.
go well. So we just have to be careful going through there. And I always drive through there and I always look around and I go, this is such a waste of space. It could be fields of cannabis growing, hemp and cannabis plants just all over.
Just gotta wait for them to hear about the tax dollars and care enough, I guess.
I mean,
Yeah, they'll get with it eventually. It'll all right?
no,
You
it's
think?
happening. We just did a news story about who was it? Illinois was getting whose money? Somebody's money was going into Illinois. I don't know which border state, but yeah, Illinois made the most tax revenue off of like a
Minnesota?
completely Minnesota, I think maybe
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, that's happened. That's happened in other states too.
Yeah, it's insane. And so like, why don't you see that? I'm always like baffled. Like, you guys are about money, but then just like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
you want to control us so hard that you're not willing to make. I don't get it. And I know part of it is like, still the pharmaceutical industry can still put more money in their pockets. So I
Right.
get that. I guess if you're corrupt.
I think
Um,
I think they just don't have they're just still stuck on this prohibition mindset, where it's just like you're not allowed to do it, period. You're going to prison if I catch you doing it.
yeah.
When I think what we're seeing from these other states, even though their systems aren't perfect yet, is that the real way to deal with it and combat it is to allow it, so that you have more people doing it and you can do it supervised, regulated to an extent to make sure there's some life and safety
Mhm.
aspects to it. But to just say you're not allowed to do it, period, is just not working. It's never
Right.
worked in
Yeah.
decades and
Don't
decades
push
now.
the button.
The war on drugs has failed. That method doesn't work. It's time to try something else.
It's failed and it tore families apart and it lied. It was just a big lie. It was a big
And
lie.
it's abundant now. So it's to your point, like, why don't these other states just get online with it, too, that you can see it? There's plenty of
Mhm.
proof now in other states. So
Yeah. Well,
I think
some
we'll
of
get
those
there.
states are gonna be making their women wear like red dresses in the streets and, curtsy.
Backwards. Why are
It's
we going
it's
backwards?
yeah,
Or
it's
I was really
why
insane.
are
surprised when
parts of the
Oklahoma
country?
allowed it. When Oklahoma came out and
Me
allowed
too.
medical, I was like, that's like one of the last places I would
And
imagine.
the way they allowed it too, and they
It's
made it
wild.
accessible for
I think they
everybody.
were smart. They
Just
were like, we see the money, we see
they were
how it
like,
can be done.
"You got
Let's
hey, you got $2,500? Okay, great. You can open a
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
Thank you
we'll
so
take
much.
There you
It was
go.
nice doing business with you." Like,
Right. Yeah, it's insane. And that's that's a part of what caused the flood back in July of 2021 was obviously California has a ton of grows, but Oklahoma does too.
yeah.
And like a ridiculous amount. For a while, Oklahoma had more licenses than California. So think about that. That's insane when you compare like the states and the population and the fact that Oklahoma is supposedly medical and cannabis has rec.
Supposedly.
Right? So
They just turned down that bill. I was surprised by that too because I thought it had some
right.
momentum, but I don't. Maybe the people just
I
didn't
mean,
like
it kind
it.
of goes back to people feel like when rec comes in, it messes things up.
Yeah.
And so maybe they're just happy with the system they
does.
have. They don't
Mhm.
want it to change much. I mean, and why wouldn't you be happy? You know, we talked about making it more normal.
Right.
They've done a pretty good job. I know it's changing and evolving, and I think they just got on their metric system recently, where it's the track and trace computer system you have to use. But you know, they did take it and show what happens to cannabis when you just normalize it, and that is the price drops. And
Right.
that is kind of why I named the show the $1 pound show years ago, was just to kind of document what's going on in cannabis. But the idea was one day it'll be like any other commodity, and the price will not be these crazy numbers.
Right.
And we saw that really in July. And again, it's not $1 a pound, but point being, it's going to go lower and lower over time if the government's doing their job. And if they're trying to combat the black market, they have to do it through an economic way, not through just a prohibitionist way. They have to try to create a system where everybody has access to it. The price of it is easier to deal with and affordable. And so I just hope that we can get to that faster than 75 or 100 years. You might be right.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
you'd
like to think we'd see that sooner.
Kanye West is running for president is all I'm saying. So, I mean, you know, I think it might be so anyways, so the $1 pound show, I was going to ask you where you came up with the name. Says interesting. And do you cover just the state of, the like financially, or just cannabis overall in California?
Yeah, I think cannabis overall in California,
Yeah.
More specifically, the business side, I would say. You know, I'm mostly talking to like attorneys or entrepreneurs that are running a business,
Right.
Folks like that. So it's kind of meant for people that you're either in the cannabis industry, working it, or maybe you want to learn more about the business side of it. Obviously, regulations and things like that. So
Yeah.
that was the whole point of it. And yeah, the name was just kind of predicting that this is going to become normalized.
Mhm.
And the purpose of it was really just almost to document what's happening, right? Like not trying to be the next huge podcast, but it's just, you guys have probably experienced this, just having these conversations about what's going on now and here.
Yeah.
And looking back on it like 5 years from now is kind of a cool thing to do.
Mhm.
So we did that with cannabis. And I listened to some of those episodes from like 2017, and it's interesting to see what came true, what didn't come true,
Right.
what is still being worked out. So that was kind of the whole purpose of that show. And also on the business side of it, you know, being a consultant for people, I felt like one of the best ways for them to kind of get to know me or see what I'm all about is to listen to some podcast episodes.
Right.
You listen to someone talk for a few hours, if you're willing to listen, you'll learn a lot about them. And so it's an easy way to decide, like, do I want to do business with him? Do I want to work with him or not? Better than a flashy website and all that. So that was all kind of the purpose behind it.
We agree with you on that. We agree with you. I think you hit your target a little bit better whenever somebody gets to see you on your like platform doing your thing, and they go, I could work with that, or I can't work with that, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I like that. We, you know, I similarly just wanted people to know what the hell was going on in cannabis. Like we were like, people just think legalize, yay.
We're done here.
That's all we have to do, hands clean. Right. And so we wanted to be like, no, not yay. We had a whole discussion about Missouri last year and a little bit in this year too, where they just legalized adult use. And it was, it's not just, hey, legalize, yay. It's like legalize it the right way. Because we're finding in some of these old school states where we were like, legalize, yay, that we're having a problem pulling back and getting it where it needs to be because it's set in stone a little bit. Yeah. It takes, you know, an act of our state Congress.
Well, yeah, anytime you got to get the government involved, everything's going to be slow.
Exactly.
Ridiculously slow because the process is slow. Getting their attention is slow. A lot of them are slow. Mm-hmm. So it's hard when your company relies on those regulations so much. And that's really why they really shouldn't be there. I mean, you know, and that's why it should be more normalized.
Right. I think I'm not like, of course, I'm not super opposed to having like medical testing, making sure there's not some bullshit in my cannabis. But also on the other side of that coin, we've been growing it in our basements for years without this huge problem. And now suddenly, you know, cannabis isn't making it to market because we've tested high for, you know, so I don't know if it's like a part of it is probably like the large scale of it all, you know,
Right.
with larger scale, you run into more problems like that. But also, you know, also you're not paying as much attention to the plant. You're not like really involved with it as much on that larger scale. I think, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
So the testing maybe is necessary, but not, I don't know, the cost of testing, how much testing we have to do, how, like, all of those things need to kind of be pulled back a little bit.
That's it too. I think the cost of testing, and the problem is that the cost of testing is essentially dictated by the government, because they're dictating how many testing labs can even open up. What does it take to open up a testing lab, which
Right.
dictates the barrier to entry for someone that wants to get in the game. So
Mhm.
if it was more free market capitalism, you would just have probably a lot more testing labs open up, and you would make the price a lot more affordable,
Right.
which means that your weed wouldn't be as expensive at the store.
Exactly.
So it always goes back to that overregulation that's really fucking it all up.
It really is. It really
It
is.
is.
And then they're regulating like the wrong things.
Right.
Like they're
Right.
yeah.
The packaging.
Right. Because
Yeah.
because you can't buy an alcohol popsicle at the
Right.
local store, like, and put it in your freezer where your child lives. Like,
Right.
you can't
Without
do
it
that.
being in specific packaging.
I
Yeah.
mean, come on. You just
Super
have to
Yeah.
secret.
snippity snip those alcohol ones. They don't
You know,
have those weird.
that's like what happened when we went into California, at least when we went from medical to rec. You used to just go to the dispensary and they would just have a big ass jar of it, and they would just,
Yeah,
pull it out, wait in front of you, and
which
then you'd
we
be on
want
your
to
way.
see.
Right. And that's more of like, we do have that in life. You go to the deli at a grocery store, right? They're cutting off pieces of meat for you. It's the
Yep,
same concept. So if we can do it with meat and make it safe, why wouldn't it be safe in cannabis?
exactly.
So we're creating all these little packages, adding more to the landfills, making
Yeah,
it so you have to put your package in a package before you exit the store, because, oh my God, a
because
child
somebody
might be
might
out there and see
see
it.
a green plant in
Blind.
your hand.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to
I'm
blind the
just
children if they see these packages. So we got to put another package.
right.
It's crazy.
Don't let the kids see it
Yeah. It's
And
as you go home and like,
open that more than patients can. They can open those packages more dexterously.
I know. Can you open grandma's medicine for her? That's what's happening. They get in the car and just pass it over to their like kid with the agile fingers, because I'm fine right now. 46,
No.
we're good. Limbs all working, but like in 20, 30 years, maybe not so much. And you're giving me this whack ass package, but
yeah.
like fucking, I can't smoke my medicine. My hands hurt. I need to smoke. I need my salve. You know what I'm saying? And I
I mean,
can't get to
I've
it.
seen big old dudes that can't even open some of these packaging, and
Right.
they're young and able. So yeah, to your point, and someone who's older, and it's crazy. We're just going way over the top, and
Too
that's
much.
again what makes it unique, in that other industries, they just start doing stuff, and the government slowly is like, oh, we should probably start regulating this. Self-driving cars, you just start doing it, and they slowly are like, oh shit, we better regulate that.
Oh shit.
Oh
But
yeah.
cannabis, we're starting off the top with the highest level of regulation from
With the
beginning.
highest, because when I think
Yeah.
about it, like when we think about, because we have I'm gonna slide in a little commercial here. We have a seltzer, a CBD seltzer, so we're not under as many regulations because the FDA and Congress cannot decide who's going to regulate us. So, anyways, that's a side story for another day. But everybody's like, we want to regulate like alcohol. But then if I had a drink in the cannabis industry, I would have to put some weird ass device on top of my can that you would first have to figure out how to get that off before you could go and open the can and enjoy your medicine or your pleasurable drink.
Right.
But also, I, as a 21 and older person, can walk into my local grocery store or liquor store, depending on your state regulation on where that shit has to sleep, and buy a 12-pack, 12 of beer with no packaging restrictions.
Right.
So
no limitations or instructions of how you have to ingest it or should ingest it.
Right. No, it doesn't say just consume one and that's good. Doesn't say that.
I think that aspect of it too is interesting, because that's where the two worlds collide of like, is this for medicine? Is this for recreation? And if it's recreation, then you think about alcohol and you think about how easy that packaging is. If it's for medicine, you think about the jars that are hard to open. And that's where the government can't decide, how do we regulate this? Is it medicine? Is it recreation? And it gets
the
tricky.
answer's yes.
Yeah. So they're like, let's just regulate the shit out of it just in case.
And but like, it's but it's so most states have not exactly ended prohibition. For those of you listen, you guys haven't ended prohibition. Ending prohibition means that we don't have encounters with the police officers concerning this plant. Still can happen, still can't grow freely. Like I grow tomatoes in my backyard. I have a limit to how many plants I'm allowed to grow in most states, if not all states, who even allow growing, who allow me to grow my own medicine, so I don't have to worry about somebody not paying attention to my plant and it getting moldy. And
you have even now in Monterey County, the county itself decided to create a personal cultivation permit where you're supposed to go to them and get a permit, just so they know that you're growing weed or some shit. And so,
but why do they need to know that?
Is there another fee?
They don't
Is there another fee involved? Is there?
Let's just say nobody signed up for those in Monterey County.
No, because why would I?
So it's
you
kind
didn't
of
ask me if I was growing asparagus last year.
In some states, though, they do make that cultivation license a thing for just everyday, personal grows.
Right. Yeah, they sure do. And also they make requirements, silly requirements, like my plants aren't supposed to grow above my fence where other people can see
don't be seen. Or
I have to put them inside and lock them up. Like, if you didn't make it so crazy suspect, maybe somebody wouldn't have jumped my fence and stolen my plants. Because you've made it so ridiculous. Like, I would have shared that with you, man. You don't have to steal my shit. But because we have all of these weird things happening, we can't go to farmers market with it. We can't go to we can't just grow it. Oh, she went black because it is 420 on the West Coast. Happy 420. Happy. Oh, you came back all colorful for a second.
I know. System's all glitchy one night.
Happy 420. Everybody on the West Coast. So, what do you find the most frustrating about the compliance and regulation that you have to deal with in California? Like, what is one of the most frustrating bullshit things?
Man, that's tough.
I know. I just asked you like this broad ass question. You're like, there's 15 things, girl.
I think the most tough and getting. I think this probably applies everywhere, but my experience is Monterey County mostly. Is the fact that you are treated unlike other industries. And even we take agriculture, cannabis in Monterey County, like I said, is usually grown in the rural areas where there's a lot of greenhouses. So in Monterey County, there used to be a really big cut flower industry, and all these greenhouses were growing tons of flowers that eventually make it to your grocery stores. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was the 80s, the NAFTA agreement came into play, and a lot of that cut flower business went down south. And so there's really nobody left up here to grow it because it was too expensive. And so Monterey County had these greenhouses that were completely dilapidated and just needed a lot of repair and tender love and care. And so they set it up so that they would allow cannabis, but only in these areas that had these greenhouses, and with the goal of being like, maybe this cannabis money will come in and revitalize these greenhouses. Right. And overall that was successful. They did that. And so my point to that is we are growing cannabis with someone next door that might be growing cut flowers. There could be a field across the street that's growing strawberries or lettuce or some other sort of commodity. And Monterey County is known as the salad bowl of the world. We grow a ton of lettuce. Most of the strawberries in America come from here. So you have a situation where I'm growing cannabis and my neighbor is not, and I have an inspection and they come, they see in the back of the property, maybe we have a big soil pile because they've been emptying soil and then replanting later. And the inspector writes you up and says, oh, you can't have the soil pile. You need to keep it lower. It's against these regulations. And a lot of times they're referencing even regular regulations, regular health code violations. Yeah. And then I look at the neighbor and their soil pile is taller than the fence. And I ask them about that. And they say, well, we don't, they're not cannabis. We don't go inspect them. Someone would have to complain about that.
I'm complaining
about it. Exactly, right? And it goes back to like, okay, so do I need to complain to my neighbor to be treated the same?
Right.
And that's probably the
And we don't
most
want to do
frustrating
that
thing.
because we're not
No.
snitches.
Right, exactly. We don't want to do that because we're not snitches. But at the same time, where it's like, I don't even have to snitch. I know you visually see
You
it.
see it.
You
Yeah.
see it, yeah.
You
You're
Your
acknowledge
on
job.
it.
Is
me.
this
You're
your
on
job? And you
me,
could
but
Right.
see
not.
it.
That's the most frustrating is when you have, and that's just one example of many, when you have stuff like that where you're like, I know you're treating me differently than my neighbor, even though we're basically doing the same thing. The only difference is what plant is inside that greenhouse.
What genus we're planting in the ground.
And that happens a lot. So we have usually one inspection every 3 months, and it's the building department, the health department, and the fire department all come together,
Wow.
walk the site, and they're making sure, did you do this with the permit? If you added maybe a reverse osmosis system to clean the water, well, you needed a permit for that. If you put
Which costs
racking,
money.
which costs money, not just, it costs tons of money, because not just for the permit itself, but you're going to have to pay somebody to help you apply for the permit, which is someone like me. And then you're going to have to pay someone even more expensive than me to design it, like an engineer that's going to design it, show the plumbing schematics and all that. So it's like, in some cases, the cost of going through the permitting process is more expensive than whatever you're trying to actually do.
Which is their intention.
And so think
Right.
of another situation would be like if you have racks in your greenhouse, like with shelving, and you want to put your baby plants on there, your clones in trays. If that rack is taller than 5'9" well, now you need a permit because you need to show me how you're going to anchor it to the ground in case there's an earthquake. And so there's just like so many little details that they pick at and want you to get when the neighbor has been doing that for probably 30 years and no one's ever cared.
We experience similar things here in Colorado where like you can't even change the like on the plans. You can't change the rooms on the plans before the room is even set. If you change the room on the plans that have already been approved by the city, you have to get them approved again, which costs more money.
Yeah.
And time.
It's crazy. And the amount of money that it costs, especially in California, to go through a construction permit process is insane. I mean, you are spending, most architects minimum $5,000 retainer off the top.
Yeah.
And then you're probably gonna owe them a little extra because they probably did more than $5,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
Engineers, again, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It just adds up so quickly that it's just not feasible for most people. So
right,
paying all these crazy taxes, you're dealing with fines that your neighbor's not dealing with, or situations that they're not dealing with. There's just so much that's affecting the industry. It is very difficult to be a licensed business. That it's again the fault of the government over regulating it. And if we made this easier for everyone, everybody would benefit. The patients would benefit because there'd be more access. The prices would be lower. The business would benefit because they'd be able to actually run their businesses. And the other thing we haven't touched on is innovation. They stifle innovation greatly.
They
can't
do
come up with new ideas because it's against the rules. Other businesses can be very innovative.
Right. It's not only against the rules, but then you're running out of money giving them every nickel and dime you have for every new regulation, like you said, that they come up with out of their ass, really, because we've talked about this before too, where the people who are making these bullshit regulations don't even know anything about the plant. They don't know how any of this shit works, and they haven't even bothered to talk to any of us about it.
Right.
Like they don't want to know how it works. They just want to take our money for some bullshit that's maybe not necessary.
And some of them, even if they wanted to learn about it, I would say I have experience where I go to board of supervisor meetings. I talk to a lot of elected officials in my local community, and some of them are awesome, and some of them really do want to learn, but there's just so much to learn, and it's so hard to teach them all the nuances that we've been discussing over this past however many minutes it's been. It takes them a long time. And so I've talked to some of these people since 2017. Some of the same people are still up there voting for things that are going to regulate my business. And they still are just barely getting certain things. Certain things they're barely understanding, barely grasping. So it's like to make change, it takes so long for so many reasons. It's corruption. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they just want to screw you. And even if they want to help you, it takes them forever to learn how they can help you.
A little bit I blame us, not us, but like us. We don't show up.
It's
like
true.
We don't, like you're there, and then who else, like there's a few of us there, but then the general public is just, and which is again why I think we kind of line up as why we decided to like get a platform and talk about it, is because the general public doesn't show up to say, hey, we don't want it like this, and they don't realize their input. And you just got to show up at those meetings and stuff and say,
yeah, you're right.
Stop taxing. I used to show up at the Durango meetings when I worked in the dispensary. I was there like every city council meeting. I had it on the calendar for my employees. We closed the store early. Show up. We're showing up because they're going to put another tax on us and to pay for what's going on in this city. And we're not the only ones that are going to carry the brunt of what's happening in the city. We just got here.
Yeah.
So we have to show up and we have to use our voices. And
honestly, I see even people that are in the business don't show up a lot of times, let alone, to your point, the people that would be more advocates that do it out of passion. Even the people that have something to lose don't show up enough. I mean, even in my own county, I there's a small group of us that get together and try to talk and game plan. But there could have been so many more of us. I mean, at one point we had probably at least 100 different properties out here that were growing cannabis on a large scale, and they would hardly ever meet with each other or go to these meetings. It's again, people like myself, maybe they're attorneys, but it goes a lot farther if you do have that group of people and you have more voices that can get behind it. It's a lot harder for them to ignore it.
I don't know whether or not to be relieved that we're not the only ones or just kind of a little horrified that this is what our industry is. But I found that it's hard to get us to come together to talk to each other because, what if they get my proprietary blend? Like, come on, man, we're all like, let's just grow this plant and give it to the people. Like this plant is not built on that selfish kind of demeanor. And I mean,
I'm a better grower than you. That mentality, the ego is gonna go.
Yeah, the ego's got to go. Because like they're not showing up. They're not like we actually met. She and I met through. She was doing a clinic that was coming down to Durango, Colorado, and I was managing a dispensary. And then we were talking and chatting. Me, her, the doc. We're all talking and chatting, and we were like, yeah, let's get other people involved. Let's have a whole like education, like dinner. Let's sit down and talk about what's going on. What have you noticed that's going on? Is there something that we need to be aware of as like dispensary managers and workers and like, like let's share. And nobody would show up. Nobody would show up. And it was just like, this is insane. I thought that's what we were built on, was this like community idea, and then like nobody shows up.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because we all support each other in some ways, but when it comes to doing stuff like that, we don't really see it in the cannabis industry as much as we should. I mean, and the other thing that is frustrating for me sometimes is to think about, hindsight's always 2020, but to think about the times for us when the market wasn't collapsed, 2017, 18, 19, 2020 was pretty good. When people had enough money, we could have been doing more. And now we're struggling, and we probably can't do more because we can't afford to do certain things. Like in 2017, there could have been a lot more cannabis businesses investing in lobbyists in Sacramento, and investing in certain people that would help you get to the table to get these things changed. And they didn't do it. And now I think a lot of them wish they would have. And that would have 100% fixed everything? No, but it would have probably made a difference. And it could have been enough of a difference to keep some people in business. A lot of people have been going out of business within that. Basically, since July 2021 to now, we've seen a lot of people go out of business in California, whether because there was too much supply and the price was just too low for them to compete with, or they're overtaxed. All these things we've been talking about. It's not easy to keep these businesses alive. And that is one reason that, unfortunately, a lot of these corporate businesses continue, because they have money to burn. They can afford to operate at a loss for a long time. And so it's just an ugly part of this industry.
Speaking of corporate businesses, there's actually a story. It was March 20th that this story was written. Jason Beck wrote this story. This is on, what is this? High at 9 News. So it's just a bunch of news stories of things that are happening. So I just wanted to ask about this. So this says that DCC is investigating cookies.
Oh, really?
But then it says, but should we take it seriously? So let's see, where should we start this? Oh, they're investigating them for endangering children, I guess. With their advertising. They said someone who received a letter from the Department of Cannabis Control to request information relating to cookies, recent advertising and marketing activities, and potentially any links to content that appears to resonate with childlike imagery. Our source shared with us the nitty-gritty details of the letter. So the company has worked with several different businesses. People know who Cookies is. Everybody knows who Cookies is.
Yeah.
An investigation conducted by DCC has revealed that particular licensee may have been engaging in prohibited marketing practices. When we asked our anonymous source, they stated, "I don't see much different than with other brands." So then there's like an Instagram post with like something that looks like a Kool-Aid brand and like a chicken and waffles brand, but they're cannabis brands, so they're a little bit different. So they're saying, well, why are they investigating us? Because other people are doing it. I don't feel like that's always necessarily a good reason.
But so they're just saying that they broke the regulations, then, that they're advertising in a way that's not allowed.
Yeah, they're saying that they're advertising to attract children is basically what they're trying to Joe Camel them
Right.
out of the advertising world, I guess. I don't know. According to our inside source, they received a letter from the DCC, and this is what they're asking for, this information that they're asking for. If there are any intellectual property rights to Cookies brand and associated logos, any individuals or entities believed to own any intellectual property rights to Cookies, any individuals and entities believed to have authority to control the use of Cookies brands. If the licensee does not have any intellectual property rights to the Cookies brands, if they have authorization from the intellectual property holder of the Cookies brand to use in connection with the licensee commercial brand. So they want to know everybody's name, basically.
Yeah.
Any licensing agreements, other documentation indicating the authorization to use the brand in connection with like a retail business, involvement of licensee company with Cookies brands. Now they're like, who are your vendors? They want to know who the vendors are now, who's carrying Cookies.
Yeah, because
As
they
you
probably say, some of these dispensaries should know better. Maybe they shouldn't have been
right,
selling
they're
whatever
trying.
product had that.
I feel like they're trying to just grab everybody right now. They're like, who is this? Who is this? Don't snitch, Cookies. Keep it to yourself.
I mean, theoretically, they could see it, right, in the track and trace
right.
system. So
I mean, if the licensee has entered into any agreements to receive from or provide monetary or other forms of consideration to individuals or entities who hold intellectual property rights to the Cookies brand. The involvement of the licensee, marketing of clothing. If the cannabis business sells clothing items or other non-cannabis merchandise that contains Cookie brand, they just want to see all of the documentation, basically.
I mean, I think if anybody was going to ever deal with that, it's Cookies. I mean, they're one of the biggest companies. They're a huge marketing machine. And going back to our conversation of innovation, they're a company that's always trying to innovate. And when you do that, you're going to skirt the line a little bit.
Yep.
And you're probably going to get caught up with the DCC in this case, eventually, in some way, shape, or form. Maybe sometimes justified, most times probably not. But that's interesting. I didn't know that was going on.
Yeah, that just came out like just this over the weekend. So,
okay.
And yeah, I don't know if I've seen other stories about it. This just came across one of my news feeds. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Usually those brands can handle themselves plenty fine.
Yeah, especially a Cookies type brand. I mean, they're pretty solidified that they're not.
And I'm not for corporate brands. I'm not a corporate brand girl, but also this could change the way business is done if they have any kind of like weird indictments on things. So we don't want them to like be all mixed up in the DCC is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, because if they get all mixed up, then our mom and pops are going to have a harder time getting out of those kind of little conundrums.
Yeah, definitely. A precedent will be set
yes,
after the end of this.
Exactly. We want good precedent, not shit. So
yeah.
Not shitty precedent.
Shitty precedent.
Yeah. So that was the one. There's never a whole lot of news coming out of California unless you guys have a vote or something happening. Is there anything that we don't know about that's coming out that you've heard about maybe that's coming out of your area?
I mean,
pressing.
Just I think that what we talked about, just the big things were the flooding that's going on currently. The other thing is, speaking of licensing, would be that California started with a temporary license that was relatively easy to get, and then they turned it into something called a provisional license, which was where you've met certain criteria, but you haven't done the environmental study that's required in California. In California, there's something called the California Environmental Quality Act. We call it CEQA for short. And so the provisional license was for farms that hadn't done a CEQA study yet, but we were still going to let you operate while you're working on that. And so this year for farms, the larger farms, if you're more than 22,000 square feet, you will not be able to renew a provisional license. You will have to transition to what they call the annual license, which is the final level of the game, apparently. And that's where you have completed CEQA, met all these requirements, and now you have like a 100% everything's done license. So there's a lot of people in California that are probably not going to be able to transition to an annual license because they are not finished with all the local requirements that they have to do. And so it's going to be interesting. I think by the end of the summer, maybe like August going into September, we could see a ton of licensees fall off because they won't be able to renew the licenses that they have. And they'll have to either shut down or downsize to like 22,000 square feet. And so that's probably the biggest thing that's going on in the state right now in terms of licensing. And that's what I'm dealing with every day with my clients. We're trying to finish a lot of things in order to get those annual licenses. And in Monterey County, a lot of the issues stem around how long it's taken to get a use permit in the county, and specifically the things that come with that. So once you have, most people have something called a conditional use permit, which is basically like a land entitlement process that lets you do cannabis at this specific property. Once you get that conditional use permit, there are certain conditions of it that you have to meet in order to be compliant. And those conditions can be things like fire sprinkler your metal building because you're changing the use. So now it's a new occupancy type and all kinds of complicated stuff. Get a water system where you have to have drinkable water coming out of the bathrooms, improve your driveway, improve your septic system, all these things that cost $50,000 to $100,000. They want you to do and complete in a very short amount of time now. I mean, most people, if your licenses are expiring in July, for example, you have to get all this done by then. While you're dealing with a low price, while you're dealing with record inflation, while you're dealing with, taxation. So that's
flooding. So you're not making any money, like you're losing your product.
Right. So I'm really worried about that specifically for the whole industry, but even more so intimately with the clients I work with on a regular basis. Because they got a lot riding on it. There's a lot that they have to pay for, a lot of employees that, depend on these operations. So for you to just say, either shut down or become 22,000 square feet is tough for a lot of them.
Because they're still going to have to, still people are going to lose their jobs if that happens.
Right. Oh, so we're working really closely with we're working really closely with our board of supervisors, trying to see if there's anything they can do that will help. They did send a letter to the state asking the state to give us more time, which is better than nothing. But I think there are certain things our local officials could be doing right now. I think they have more discretion than they think, and they could be helping us. So that's really the biggest concern, is how many people will transition from provisional to annual, and how many are going to go out of business, which is ultimately going to,
destroy some.
It's going to destroy some people's situations. And it is farming, to be fair. There are ups and downs in farming, but again, when you deal with all these other extra layers that we're talking about, it's so much harder to stay in the game.
I have no idea what happened. too. We are the queens of technical difficulties. I don't know you're told that, but your screen is black right now, and I'm probably going to start sounding like Max Headroom. I don't know what's going on.
I don't either.
Okay.
Back.
Yes.
No worries.
With that, just since we're at a breaking point, I just want to say that this show is sponsored by Queen Kitty Seltzer. Queen Kitty Seltzer, pop this kitty, put it in your mouth. It is a low-dose CBD seltzer with 0 yak in the back, 0 sugar, 0 sweeteners. It doesn't have that weird metallic taste on the back of your tongue. It's very refreshing. We never test hot. We're always THC free. So check us out, Queen Kitty Seltzer. We actually just got into Argonaut recently. So yay, new store. Go check it out, Denver. Welcome back. Maybe?
Man, I feel like seltzers are popping off everywhere.
Starting to. And there's some good ones out there. There's some very bad ones out there. But we're a very good one.
Yeah.
Also, we're launching a new flavor this summer. So you guys stay tuned. Follow us, solo.to/Queen Kitty Seltzers, where you can follow us. www.queenkittyseltzer.com is our website where we have merch and cans available. We are going to have bubblegum back in stock by May, and also we're going to have a new flavor launch in June. So stay tuned on that. And if you want to guess the flavor, go to our most recent post, I believe, on there, and just put a comment in there. We'll find it. It's fine. This show is also brought to you by CQ LLC. CQ LLC, Cannabis Industry Consulting and Education. We do responsible vendor training in the state of Colorado, 970-426-5985 if you want to sign up for that. We have an online platform right now, and we are working on a live platform. www.cq-llc.com. We work in conjunction with Greenflower Media to provide an online platform. If you need responsible vendor training for you or your employees for now or the future, you can buy bundles pack and you can save them for the future. Give us a call, 970-426-5985. And of course, us, the Cannabis Closet Podcast. You can follow us on the Cannabis Closet Podcast, solo.to/Cannabis Closet 420. You can hang out with us on Discord. Our Discord link is in there and a little invite. You just pop on over there. You can email us some fan mail like Deborah and Joey did, which is why Joey's on the show right now. Thank you for that fan mail, by the way. That was amazing. And our first fan mail. We know we got fans in the comments, but we never got anything in our email before.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So thank you so much for that.
Course.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Oh, yeah, it was really cool. I was kind of high on that for a few days. If you can't catch us at 4:20 Mountain Standard Time on Mondays and Wednesdays on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, catch us later on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And don't forget to check out the Dollar Pound Show with Joey Espinoza when you're looking for those podcasts as well. It's out there. And it sounds so smooth and
thank you.
Technical difficulty free. That's so nice. I was like, listen to his voice.
Yeah, no, we used to do it a lot more. I'm trying to bring it back. Probably, I'm hoping maybe towards the end of summer. I'm gonna try to have a lot more episodes. I've kind of fallen off a little bit because I've been so busy. But
we understand.
Yeah, I kind of missed the boat on like I said, July 2021. I should have had an episode out. We should have been talking about that because that's kind of a lot of what the show's about. But
yeah,
I appreciate you letting me come on and chat with you too. So it kind of brings back that vigor of me reminding how much I love to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it's a good time. And you have important things to say, and you have the experience to back it up too, which is what I always love. I always want to hear somebody that's actually knows what they're doing and has been hands-on or is in there doing it, so that you're keeping up with those regulations, what's going on, because it's what you do.
Right.
So it's very helpful, and we appreciate you putting out the information. It sounds like an expensive endeavor in California. You got to really have funding to even think about getting a license out there.
I mean, honestly, it might sound kind of messed up, but sometimes I feel like a dream crusher. A lot of people come to me and I want to do this, I want to do that. And I start telling them what it would take to do it. If it's even allowed at all, because again, some cities and counties might not allow it, but I think by the time we get to our conversation, most people are just like, "Whoa, I'm not ready for all that."
Right.
It's too much. I mean, most of these endeavors, you're probably looking at a minimum of $500,000 to really get it up and going. I
It's
mean,
so crazy, but very true, at least.
You really need that. And don't get me wrong, some people pull it off. I'm not saying it's impossible, but for the most part, it's a very capital intensive business to get into.
Yeah. In most states too, not just California, but most states, Oklahoma being like one of the exceptions to the rule.
Right.
Where you could just be like, I got $2,500, let's build a grow. And their land is kind of inexpensive too.
Right.
So like you could like really pull it off.
Right.
With a little small investment, much less than $500,000.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people that move to Oklahoma just for that
Exactly.
opportunity.
And then, I mean, I don't hate that the market kind of got flooded. I feel like the strong will survive in that market.
Right. That's
Or the ones with the most money, which unfortunately also happens. But hopefully the strong will survive. Hopefully, what we hope for y'all out there and ourselves too is that that we can purchase, if we're going to purchase from non-corporate sources, and if we want to grow, that we can grow, and if we want to have our friend grow it, then we can buy it from our friend. That's our future. That's our dream for you, for us, farmers markets, and maybe Walmart. I don't know. I don't really want.
Why not both? You have both now with most industries. It should be. I think that's the point. Is you should have both. It shouldn't be limited.
Should be options. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like tomatoes. Like tomatoes.
Right. Just like tomatoes.
Yeah.
And that's something that people got to keep in mind. Like you said about the price going down. That's where I find in the cannabis industry some people have conflicting ideals. On one hand, they're a businessman, and this could even be people that are really cannabis people that have been in the game. One hand, they're a businessman. Obviously, they want to make money. On the other hand, they're an advocate, and they want to have more access and make it cheaper for people. And sometimes it's hard to have both. Yeah, it's hard to have both, because if it was treated like tomatoes, you wouldn't be getting $500, $600 a pound for that light dep. You wouldn't be getting over $1,000 for that indoor. And so that's where I think people need to decide, like, what do you want? I mean, I'm sure we want the perfect medium, but there's always going to be one way or the other when it comes to that. And so me as an advocate at my core, I think I really do want it to be more normal, and which I do know means the price will be maybe $1 a pound, maybe not that low, but so, and I think we're going to get there eventually, but it's an interesting thing when you think about those two concepts, because they're advocates one day, but then businessman the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's hard to separate those two. Like it's hard to be both of those people, I should say.
Yeah.
Too, because they do fight against each other.
Right.
As people who own our own business as well. It's a fight. It's a fight to, like, I want to give it to you for free, but also I had to pay for it. And I gotta pay my bills.
Yeah, no, of course. And again, it's finding that happy medium.
Right.
And one way it would help is if the government got a little bit out the way, and all that extra money that they're getting, maybe that would benefit the consumer.
Yeah. Regulated in the right way. It's not is the overregulation is really what is killing our industry overall.
Right.
The inability to access a business that we want to jump into, and this idea that it's this get rich quick business too, which is why everybody wants to do it, and which is why the cost of getting into business, even though the cost of the product is going down, the cost of getting into business at all is not going anywhere. It's going up, if anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
especially with taxation, the taxes as well, on top of it.
And again, cannabis it's an interesting spot right now in terms of what kind of industry is it. I know it's a lot of things to a lot of people, but we talked about, is it medical, where it should be treated like pharmaceuticals? Is it recreational, where it should be treated like alcohol? So where we're going to land on that, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. And that is one part that makes it cool about different states having different rules, because it's kind of like a way to test out different things and see how they work. I think, and I've talked to colleagues of mine about this, we're probably falling somewhere in between, like a coffee and an alcohol. We're not quite just coffee. We're not quite alcohol. So however you would decide to regulate something that falls between those two, is maybe closer to the truth of how we should be treated as an industry.
I was just thinking when you were saying that, I was thinking, you know, they don't, there's a lot of people that rely on like herbal medicine as
Right.
their medicine, that, you know, and in some instances, in a lot of instances, it works. And so that doesn't have some weird bottle cap on it. You know what I'm saying? We could go buy peppercorns at the damn grocery store. And if you didn't know, caryophyllene is like a mimic cannabinoid. So like it's not illegal, and it is found in pepper. It's found in pepper. We can go buy them peppercorns. We could chew on them to get rid of like pain, aches and pains. And nobody put a weird bottle cap on my peppercorns. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I don't know, but I do
Yeah.
think there is a happy medium somewhere where we don't have to like have this pill bottle mentality, because that's not what
Right.
our medicine is. We preach a lot here that it's medicine. At the end of the day, it's medicine for everybody, even if you're using it in an adult use space. It's safer than any kind of recreational drug outside of maybe like mushrooms, I would say. And so it's a safer recreational option.
Right.
And also like, if you are the type of person that goes home and has like a glass of wine after a hard day, or like a beer or whatever, then that's a stress reliever for you. And there is some medicinal
Right.
property actually in alcohol. Beer made with hops, which is the cousin to cannabis, by the way, if y'all didn't know. Y'all knew. But but the same can go for like, I've had a rough day today. I came home and I smoked a joint. You know, I sat down and smoked a joint. This is a lot of times a healthier option than
Right.
imbibing in multiple openings of alcohol, right? Or glasses of alcohol. And also, even though I don't think about it in this moment, how medicinal it is, man, that bitch that I got to work with stressed me out today in the office. And I am not going to kill her right now because I came home and had a blunt instead of thinking like really bad thoughts. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
like, to me, it's all medicinal, even if we don't consider it in the moment that way. And also, we don't need to be, we're not pills.
Right.
I mean, sometimes we are, but like in general, we're not pills.
Yeah.
know? So like,
Yeah.
calm down. And I'm pretty fact positive that 10 year, I mean, I could be wrong because I don't have kids, so y'all could correct me in the comments, but I don't think a 10-year-old really knows how to dab.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
So like, why are you making me do this bullshit right here to open this teeny ass little container?
Yeah.
You know, to get my very strong medicine that I need because my back hurts. Because
Well, and it goes back to, like we said, alcohol, right? I mean, how hard is it for him to get into the fridge and grab a drink?
I have a story about that, actually. I mean, it was so easy for me. My mom let me keep alcohol in the fridge. It was the 90s. Nobody gave a shit about us. Like, you know, and then like when I was a kid, there was mixed something in the fridge and I thought it was just orange juice and I drank it and it made me very ill. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? And like your kid can get alcohol poisoning when there's no, and it happens. Oh, and it happens all the time. And still there's no regulation like that on alcohol.
Right.
Children, babies die from alcohol poisoning well more often than anybody gets harmed in the cannabis space. And still there's no like child proofing or none of that.
And even if we think about something that's, again, going back to the other side of the spectrum, maybe not as dangerous as alcohol, but still has an effect on you, which would be caffeine, coffee, energy drinks. What about that side of it too? I mean, there's tons of people
addicted to caffeine as a child.
Yeah, you see? And so it's like that, again, is very accessible, easy to open. No one's really tripping off of packaging. I mean, how many kids are now going with their parents to Starbucks and getting a nice, crazy whipped cream drink, you know? And again, I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. I'm not saying they shouldn't be. I'm just saying that, you know, we know that caffeine has an effect, and we know
that's what I was going to say. There are plenty of studies that show that caffeine has an effect on brain development and in in too much. And also, while we're on the subject of caffeine, let's talk about sugar. I mean, we just hand kids like a Mountain Dew. There was a whole show about a little baby girl who was whatever, a little fashion whatever, and her go juice was like a pixie stick and a Mountain Dew. And it's just like, we're just commercial, we're just making it okay, and that's actually more detrimental to your child than cannabis.
And that's where you have to, like, you know, like you touched on earlier about them doing some of this on purpose, because you have to ask the question of, if it is truly about life and safety and these regulations are meant to preserve that and look out for that, then how are we having this conversation right now? How are we seeing kids downing pixie sticks and Mountain Dew or getting into their parents' alcohol so easily when you're treating cannabis like it's nuclear waste or something? Like, it doesn't make sense. And ultimately the regulations just actually harm everybody.
Honey Boo Boo.
Oh,
what's her name? I'm not going to ask why you know that, but but yeah, I mean, but the reason he knows that is because it doesn't matter if you watch that little show or not. She was famous.
Right.
She was a meme. She was downing Mountain Dew with her little Southern accent and her little pudgy self. She was adorable. But like, and it's just, this is what's harmful is, but it's like, yeah, it's on purpose. We want to keep us dumb. Sugar, caffeine, and things that we shouldn't be imbibing in, alcohol at a young age before full brain development, keeps us where they want to keep us.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's, I don't know. I hope that cannabis can slowly get closer and closer to the truth. Like I said
want
earlier,
us to be better. I want us to
we'll
be
see how long it takes. Yeah. I mean, the other thing is there's all these factors at play, right? Like the special interest groups that maybe want to see cannabis kept down and kept where it is. Other industries, maybe the alcohol industry being one of them. Who knows? I mean, these are people that have tons of money. They are actually showing up. They are lobbying, doing all this shit, you know? So it's just so hard. I mean, it was really just going to take some government officials to not care about those special interest groups and just see it for what it is. I mean, it's plain as day to all of us, but
to that, I mean, it's plain as day to them too, but of course they gaslight us about it and make up stories about it. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, I mean, you guys, we say it all the time. You've got to show up. Find out when your city council meetings are, your county council meetings, and just, you know, they'll send you reminders if you sign up for the email. I know that gets annoying, but honestly, start showing up and let them know who you are. And then when the subject of cannabis is on the table, you know, you'll be there. They know you because you're at all of the city council meetings and you can speak up. And also, if you're at all the city council meetings, there are other things that you're going to want to speak up about.
Right. One of the ways I got started in what basically evolved into my consulting business was, originally I was a co-founder of Monterey County NORML, which, for people who don't know, NORML is a huge advocacy group in the United States. It stands for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. And so I created like a subchapter of NORML in my local area and basically started to reach out and find people that were advocates of cannabis as well. And we would all get together and we would go to these city council meetings together and we would help push cannabis policy, make it something that they have to talk about. And so that's something that you can do too, because you know, as you say this, they may feel, well, I don't want to go alone, or I'm scared to go alone.
Right.
You can definitely do something like create your own NORML chapter. You can reach out to NORML and they'll help you do that or explain how you can do that. And they're not the only group, but they're one that comes to mind. So there is ways to kind of do this on a united front. And people just have to be willing to do it, though. I mean, we spent a lot of time, we did a lot of things without getting paid, right? It wasn't about getting paid. It was just, we would organize meetings. We would have all kinds of people from the cannabis community be there. We would explain to them what's going on. People would have questions about how you do this and how you do that. And that's kind of where I developed the knack of like, okay, I seem to be good at like finding the regulations, reading them, comprehending them. And so I turned it into a business. But you know, there are ways that we could do a lot more to advocate and on every level. And I think it does start, though, at that city and county level. You need to start making change in your own backyard and at least trying to. I mean, that's the other thing is some of us aren't even trying. We're just
I'm not even
blank.
trying right now. I have to tell you, I have to be real honest. Like, I haven't settled into my new community, and it's been a while because I travel so much. I have excuses for sure, but it's been a while since I've been to one in Durango. But talking about it is making me like, yeah, I need to find out where our city councils did, blah 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 blah. I need to figure
Right.
that out in my area, and also I want to state an apology to Ian Thomas Tafoya, because I have tried to commit myself to have time to do those things like call and stuff, and I haven't had time, even though I've said, yeah, I'll do it, because I have this bad habit of saying yes to things that I should say no to, because I know I don't have I know my plate is too full sometimes. But having said that, if you're in Denver, the last day to vote is April 4th. You should have already received your mail-in ballot. So if you get it, you got to get it out before April 4th. And if you don't, there's drop-off stations, and I'm sure there's places where you can go in person and vote as well. So if you're in Denver, and can vote for Ian Thomas Tafoya. He is a mayoral candidate, and he would do amazing things for Denver. He has a lot of plans for helping the people in Denver and building communities in Denver. He's an environmentalist, so he's looking out for best interest environmentally for Denver as well, which is a big city and sometimes very difficult to do. If you're in Denver, you hear my voice right now, make sure you vote by April 4th. And vote for Ian. Vote for Ian Thomas Tafoya. I can't vote for him because I actually live outside of the Denver city limits, and so I'm not in that community to be able to vote for him. But I love him, and I've tried to support him in many ways. I could have done better. I'm sorry. For real, I am though. I am sorry that I didn't do more, or haven't done more. We always do some would you rather before we wrap up the show. And I have 3 today because 3 is my number and I like to do 3. So we have 3 would you rathers. Before I get to those would you rathers, I just want to let you guys know that in Denver, April 6th, we're going to be going to opening day at Shisha Lifa. So we'll be tabling there. April 7th is movie night. We haven't decided yet. We're waiting on a meeting, but we will most likely be there at least in person, if not having a table there at movie night. So we can share links for that if you're in the Denver area. April 30th, we're going to see Miss Jackson If You Nasty in St. Louis. So that means that on May 1st, our show will be live in St. Louis. And we're going to try to get a St. Louis guest on the show with us. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
So I have 3 would you rathers, and they range in my inability to do any of these things. So we'll start easy. Would you rather live in a tree house or in a cave? That's where you live.
Man.
That's
Treehouse or a cave?
Yeah. I'm thinking, how hard would it be? Here's what I think. How hard would it be to install plumbing in the treehouse versus to install plumbing into a cave?
Yeah, that's true. Also, I feel like a treehouse, maybe you're safer from.
Yeah, because you're up.
Yeah, you're up. You're farther away from any danger potentially.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, you could get, too intoxicated and walk off the edge of your treehouse and hurt yourself.
That's true.
And warmth. Up in the treehouse. I don't know how well, with the snow and whatnot here.
Yeah, because we live in Colorado, and y'all live now in a snow field.
Right. Yeah, so maybe the cave would be better, right? A little insulator.
Bears
I guess.
Caves.
I know, it's so tough. There's so many questions I have though, right? Like, what kind of treehouse? How deep is the cave?
Yeah.
But,
no.
I guess a cave. People have done it in history, right? I guess we'd have to just figure that out.
They actually are called cavemen. I've never heard of a treehouse man before.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or maybe in that
Tarzan.
case, I'm a treehouse man.
I don't like heights, but also I would feel very claustrophobic in a cave. I know this because because everything I do is in my basement and I can't seem to get enough light down here. Even with like, there's like access windows and stuff. There's like a little bit of natural light that I just cannot seem to get enough light in here to make me feel good about life.
That cave might not work out.
Yeah.
You know, for you, that cave might be tough.
I think I'm going to go with the treehouse, but I would want like one of those like crazy swinging bridges to get, you know.
Yeah, do you get to choose where your tree is and what type of tree, and just like engineer the shit out of that?
Is it like a treehouse, like an Encanto, like an Encanto treehouse?
I feel like too, being potheads, the treehouse would be more chill. Like if you're actually smoking a joint, and you're just like smoking, looking down on shit, as opposed to like the dark, grungy cave, it'd be depressing. You know?
Yeah, like sometimes down here. I'd be spraying it, like making sure it smells good down here.
I think assuming it's a solid treehouse, well built, I'd probably prefer the treehouse overall. I think it would be more of a happy place. A cave would be more like depressing.
Yeah, until winter comes, and then
I mean, hopefully the tree has plenty of cover for your treehouse.
Leafy insulation. Treehouse men. It's a new thing. It happened. People lived in trees. There's no way people didn't live in trees.
Yeah, no, it happened.
It had to have. Okay. Would you rather? I don't know if I could do either one of these. Would you rather buy all used underwear or all used toothbrushes?
Yeah, that's nasty.
That's very nasty. Underwear, right? I mean, you can wash the underwear.
Yeah, I guess you can wash the underwear.
You could like sanitize the toothbrush, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it depends too. Like, how was the toothbrush used? Were we cleaning toilets with this? Were we only brushing our teeth?
I mean, is it a stranger's used toothbrush?
What were they used for? And yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Where are these used?
I guess, probably the underwear. Like you said, if you can wash it, the underwear would probably be
the most sanitary option.
Yeah, it's still either option's weird, but
it's weird. Don't buy used underwear. It's weird. I don't know why it's weird.
Can you just say no to both and go commando? Is that an option?
I don't think it's an option in Would You Rather. In Would You Rather, you have to go with one of the options.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, I think the underwear.
Oh, did you see though? I don't know if you're a TikToker or not, but there's a story going. So I saw different perspectives on this, but there's a story going around. At first, it started with like girls are going commando at the gym, and then there was like this one guy who was like, "I got chlamydia in my eye."
Oh shit!
Because apparently, like somebody didn't wipe down the machine, and then he put his towel down, and he did his workout, and then he later used that towel, which y'all, this is gross, to wipe his face. It's got his booty sweat on it too. Why would you use your booty sweat towel to wipe your face? I mean, no offense to our guests, but we found out that men in the world today are having a hard time doing sanitary things like wiping or washing their ass. So, I mean, anyways, don't use your booty towel for washing your face not at the gym, not in the shower, not ever. Just use a different booty towel. Okay.
Yeah, have two.
Right? Gotta have you gotta have a separate towel for your booty. That's number one. Or number two,
separate face.
This story went kind of viral. And then, there's a lot of people on TikTok that have STIs that do like education and like, don't be embarrassed, because literally this can happen to anybody who's, engaging in, familiar practices, maybe with somebody that they know or whatever, but also engaging in maybe less safer practices when they're engaging. Okay. It could happen to anybody. And so there are people on TikTok that are like, this does happen. People do have it. And, education, Let's educate each other and stop putting each other down, which, I'm about that life. So anyways, the point that this TikToker made was that now we're blaming women because, for this one guy's thing that maybe happened. We don't know that that's what caused, like, and also that's not a way that you can spread STIs. Right? Nobody clicks that together, but you're not going to get an STI off of a gym seat. But also stop wiping your booty hole with the same towel you wipe your fucking face.
Sorry, you might get chlamydia in your eye.
You might get, maybe he got chlamydia from a booty towel. Anyways, I don't want to get into it. It's gross. Anyways, also practice safe engagement and get tested. If you are not practicing safe engagement, get tested and get tested often. It's your public service announcement. This is the last one. And I have a hard time with the ones like these because of my womanhood. So here it is. Would you rather lose the ability to read or the ability to speak?
Man.
Yeah.
By speak, we just mean verbally, right? Like, could I do sign language?
It doesn't say lose your ability to communicate. You can't talk. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, I'd say probably.
Yeah, no more, right?
I'd probably would rather lose my ability to speak because, not having the ability to read would probably limit your ability to expand your mind and become a more developed person. So if I could at least still maybe use sign language, or I could, write it down, find some way to communicate with people. I think my ability to speak.
I wonder, this is a would you rather. So we're thinking about it in terms of having the ability to speak, not being a mute, but, or a person that lives in a world of deafness. Right. So we're thinking about it from that perspective, but that is speaking for them.
Right.
They're still speaking.
Yeah. It's a form of communicating though, right? So it doesn't say no communicating. I mean,
lip reading, could they read your lips? Is that what you're asking? I don't know, Bobby. I don't know, little Bobby Customs. No, I agree. I would, as much as I love to talk clearly, the not being able to read something or learn more, expand my mind. And because reading is so important to that, it's not just that I couldn't learn something new by listening to it, right?
Right.
Because I'm not losing my ability to hear. I can still hear things.
Right.
It's not that, but when you read things and take them in through that medium, your brain reacts differently from the way that it reacts when you see videos or hear audio of even the same information.
Yeah.
So
it's stimulating your brain in a different way.
Yeah. So I definitely do not ever want to lose my ability to read. It's and also as a woman, I don't want to lose my ability to be heard or to be able to educate myself through reading either, because those are things that we've had to fight for. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to lose that at all. But those are our three would you rathers. We are at the finale of the show. We just want to remind everybody, first of all, where can everybody find you, Joey?
Easiest place to find me would be on Instagram, at Cannabis Permits. Website is cannabispermits.com. Feel free to email me at joey@cannabispermits.com. Pretty easy to find me. So if you have any questions, even speaking on things like we said, advocacy stuff, if you want to get more involved in your local city or county and you need some direction, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be willing to share my experiences on that and help you with that.
I have some friends that are kind of newly in California, so I will actually put her onto this episode, and if she wants to reach out, she totally can.
Cool.
Because I'm certain that, I mean, I think she's doing the stay-at-home mom thing right now, but I also know that she's very advocacy driven and in the cannabis space likes to, you know, be a part of that. So I think, yeah, you guys would make a like connect really well to have those conversations. You can find us solo.to/cannabis closet 420. That's where you can find all of our social media, any way to contact us, and our Discord. We will not be on Discord tonight after the show because we have a meeting. But otherwise, join us on Discord. You can still go join, and there's lots of people always there. So just go into that main text and say, hey, everyone, want to join me in a room for a smoke session? Y'all can go hang out. We're building a community over there. So go join us. As always, you guys, be nice to yourself. Put your mask on before assisting others. It's very difficult to pour from an empty cup. Pretty much can't do that.
Yes, cultivate love. You deserve it. Bring it to you.
Yes, and as always, stay lifted, you guys.
Stay lifted.
We'll see you on Monday. And thank you, Joey, for all the information they said. They loved it.
Yeah, no, thank you, ladies, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you guys on Monday, and thanks for joining us. Thanks for rolling up and showing us. Peace out.
Peace.
Yeah.